paper to join later. Okay. Okay, today I hope to share and discuss about how to write a paper. Because as we know, we need to write a paper review, and we need to write research interest or suggestions, right? So to prepare for those projects, I think that we need to think about more deeply, or we need to study how to write a paper. And as we study how to write paper, we can understand more deeply how to prepare a paper and how to review a paper. And also, I think that we can have more deep insight into how to review a paper or how to write a paper. Because, as I told you, a paper is like a ring, a diamond ring in science. When we have any book, it is in a collection of so many diverse, valuable papers over the world. So you already, studying and learning and researching many papers already. Because as I told you, books, articles, and some reports are just based upon many papers. So when you have a special interest in specific area, not only in climate science, but also other area or other uh, type of, uh, specific interest issue, you can, think about more deeply about that issue, and you can know how to uh, have a more deep insight into that area issues. So let's just think about how to write a paper at first. And today, we will talk about how to write a paper in short, and also we try to see climate science debate. It is operated by Campus Liberty Tour 2022 at University of Dallas. So I hope that you can just think about this additional class. It's like a seminar to think about a paper and how to write a paper and how to review a paper and how to study more deeply about that issue based upon you have interest in specific area. And also let's hear together a climate science debate, maybe just 1 hour or less or more. So just let's have very convenient mind to have this class together and to prepare for your written exam more properly. Um, as I told you, we need to read good paper that are related to your interest or research paper. So as you read more deeply, you can have more deep knowledge and insight and any issues related to your research interest. So, as I told you, when I started to research at University of Missouri as master's student, I got a issue of, incorporating stand density module or biomass module in Landis. So for doing that, I need to um, read three papers, related three papers, very seriously and very sincerely. I remember that I maybe read and over again for 1 or 2 months for three papers, and sometimes um, some rather cannot be written because I uh, read it and just write something there, write on the line. So really deeply, I try to read and learn from those papers that I selected. So at first, you need to choose good papers that are related to your interest. Then, as you read it deeply, more deeply, you can understand the key matter of the papers. So, as you read more deeply about that um, paper, you can have many motive there. You can have knowledge there. What you need in researching that kinds of issues. You can have insight into um, how you can approach to get good result really to your interest or research papers. So you need to choose very good paper, and you can spend some time to do that. As I, you know, did for you, I gave you maybe 4 weeks to choose, good papers to review for you. And I think that you need to have a very uh, good time to choose the proper paper um, to have good research. And maybe when you have such good papers, you can have very good knowledge um, and you also can have a very good um, interest when you read those paper. And some of them, I hope that you can read it very intensively. Like, it could be two or three. In some cases, like to review paper, maybe more paper could be needed to read very intensively, right? For example, in my case, I try to review um, for carbon cycle modeling to adopt those in Korean environmental circumstances. So for doing that, to write such a review paper, three paper cannot be, enough, right? I just need to compare four major um, carbon cycle modeling. At that time, I need to read and review those, related paper, maybe 10 and 20. Okay, in that cases, to make a review paper, I need to read very carefully, very intensively, maybe not just three. Three could not be enough at that case, right? Maybe I think that, 20 uh, papers, I read it very deeply. So although, I showed you before, I guess, it just included some papers, that is all. However, I need to read maybe uh, 20 papers very seriously, checking various issues. Let's see that paper. Okay, for example, I made a reviews of first carbon dynamics models that use empirical use curve. It includes CVMCF S3 and Quantifix and Cosmo 4 and Efficient. I just got a mission to compare those um, first carbon dynamics. My senior doctor, his name was Kim, and he just, let me research. Hojong Kim, could you please compare um, some carbon dynamics models to adopt in Korean environment? Which one could be better, or which one should be adopted more well in Korean situation? If it is enough to adopt those, first carbon dynamics model, or if we need to make a progress based upon already made first carbon dynamics. That's what I want to do when I arrive in South Korea, you know. And I remember that at that time, before coming to South Korea, I always, called as just Hojong. I was always Hojong. And after coming to South Korea, some people used to say Dr. Kim, Doctor, and 박사님. So I don't know who is calling, and they are calling me. So at that time, from that time, I was called that way. However, before coming to South Korea, I always called as just Hojong, and we also call to anyone like just first name. We're very friendly, except very old professor. The old professor, we also used to call them Dr. Larson, or yes, it could be respectation to all professor. However, they in United States usually they just call just first name friendly, right? So I think that kind of um, relationship and culture and custom could be also good. So I also hope that think about that kind of relationship, like equality maybe, right? So so Yohwan Kim, he was got a doctorate degree by Professor Pete Bettinger. I told you that he's one of the great scientists, got a reputation and prize of 2023 or two. This year's scientist, he have number of high number like 2% over the world, more citation in his research papers. The Youngwan Kim was the first PhD student, got a doctorate degree from the Pete Bettinger. When he worked at University of Oregon, you know, uh, Pete Bettinger you previously worked as a professor at University of Oregon. That university is one of the best university in first area, and he transferred to University of Georgia. So I also got a doctorate degree. So Pete Bettinger introduced me to Dr. Youngwan Kim, and he Pete Bettinger told that Youngwan Kim is my first student, so you can contact him to work together. So I contacted him, and he wanted me to work together. So I just came to South Korea, and Youngwan Kim and Rayan Kim is like a very senior researcher at Korean Forestry Institute of Technology, etc. And Hyun Park was in a previous chair. And if you have deep interest in forest economics and management, you can contact those great professors or researchers. And I hope that some of you can interest in forestry area, then you can consider to join Korean Institution of Forest Science Technology. So when I write this paper, Dr. Yongwan Kim required me to review those papers. So I need to read so many papers very intensively, very seriously, not only three, maybe more than uh, almost maybe I guess 20 papers. So as when I read those related papers and study users guides, something like those, I need to prepare in that way. It's very simple one, but I need to compare about methane emission is included or not in this way. Every items, I need to check all of those very carefully. So just one table, and however, I need to read many papers very seriously. Okay, so it was the summary of rate growth in each model. So growth model, what is the key model, and mixed species stand was included or not, or curve smoothing algorithm were included or not. This type of things were checked very carefully to read many papers. Those papers cannot be written, cannot be read just roughly, right? To check this kind of, important issues. So this type of mortality by stand density, mortality by disturbances or longevity, etc. Those classification for per mortality to classify if they have then those kinds of information or not. I need to read many papers very carefully. So is not easy to make a review paper. Although you know I think that some of you guys have already read review paper. Some of those did that, and it seems to be very, helpful to have diverse information, but it is not easy to write review paper. It takes a long time, and you need, I need to I need to read many papers to do that, and so it is very deeply related to our classes because as we know, carbon cycle is one of the key issues to think about global climate changes. Okay, so when we analyze or expect or estimate how severe our climate change or climate crisis, one key matter is that carbon cycle, as I told you before. So you know based upon climate change crisis, I hope that you can have more interest in carbon cycle. Yeah, although there are so many issues and theme you must have interest in to research in um, climate science. Carbon cycle is kind of one crucial issues to study climate change, how climate change could be severe in our future. Okay, so you need to read this good paper. Okay, and so it was helpful for many researchers, mm, you know, who have interest in climate changes or carbon cycle because when they have interest in climate change, a climate crisis, they need to have interest in carbon cycle. Okay, when we read the textbook, it's absolutely true, right? There's no doubt about that. And when they have interest in carbon cycle, based upon what they learn of carbon cycle, they start to have interest in carbon cycles, uh, multiple carbon cycle models. Wow, how they did research it, yeah, what their assumptions and what they included there, and which kind of variable was or included. So there was four major um, first carbon dynamics models. So I compared those of for carbon cycle models. So maybe maybe when they have interest in carbon cycle, when they have, as they have more interest in carbon cycle dynamics models, they need to read this paper, right? Well, which one should I try to start? Which one could be more relevant for my cases? Which model could be more proper to use in their nation's environments or circumstances? So it was written more than any paper in at that year, and it was were cited more than any papers in that year of the um, this paper for science and technology. So for that reason, I guess I got a 2015 best paper of the first science technology. Luckily, I got this, uh, prize. It is not easy to be published in that paper, but it become one of the best paper of that oral papers back maybe more than 100 um, article there. So it was very blessing, I think. Yeah, grace by God, in my opinion. And so you need to read many paper as much as you can, but um, okay, try to read good paper as much as you can, but according to the research issues. For example, when I need to invent the stand density module or biomass module, reading three paper very intensively and 20 papers roughly could be very enough, I think. Reasonable numbers of the, you know, to have uh, good insight into that issue. However, if you want to review uh, like carbon cycle model or hydrology cycle modeling, or if you want to review something, you need to read more paper, more intensively. That's what I wanted to say. Okay. Based upon um, what you have read very seriously, um, you can have um, you must have reasonable and creative thought based upon what you read. Okay. Um, because just read. I have read 20 papers enough or three papers very intensively. That's great. I have done everything. It doesn't make sense. Okay. After read three papers very intensively or 17 papers very roughly, relatively roughly, you need to have your reasonable and creative idea or thoughts based on what you read. What I wanted to study more based upon what I've read. In that way, it must be reasonable based upon what you read, based upon what you learn, based upon the background of information and knowledge. It must be reasonable at first. When you have interest in research, to have your research interest or research suggestions, and I hope it must be creative. If you just do some research as any researcher just did already before, yes, it sometimes also it could be enough. However, great works, in science or any other areas, always need creative idea or creative thoughts. So, some great scientists can have, Nobel Prize. It's kind of that kind of guy, could have very reasonable but very creative idea or thought in that area. Then such creative idea or thought could bring um, more productive, more applicable result that we need. So, I'm not sure if some of you guys have seen the movie, Beautiful Mind. That movie is about John Nash. He is great scientist, maybe physics. And he like kind of, very creative one and very interesting what he studied. And he also very creative. And based on the background information previous, he tried to have very creative thoughts and ideas. And um, so you need to try to make a reasonable but also creative thought when you um, start to have research interest or you want to research some issues and then write introduction. That's what I want you to do as like research interest, research suggestion, etc. Right? So after reading good papers, you are reading one paper. Some of guys already submitted already, and you will complete by the end of this weekend, and you can have your reasonable thought already. You sometimes think about some creative thoughts, and you will read one more paper very deeply. If you have more motive at this time, try to read more paper. You don't need to just two papers now. You can add one or two more. What about 10? What about 20? Do. And you can, publish one paper in this year. If you have publication in bachelor degree university, you can go to any university as that, graduate school, Harvard or Stanford, MIT, any universities, will welcome you with, full force type, you know, um, providing, full tuition, everything, and providing your funding to live on. So have some passion for that. I also, just studied in United States for 7 years without paying money, and I got always almost, got a maybe 10,000, $1,500 per month usually. And why they give you such huge money for 7 years? They want me to publish. They don't require me to speak English well. When I already got there, they they told that your English is enough, and they really want me to publish. Okay, um, so as scientists, although they don't want to go to grad school, they must have interest in scientific issue, and they can provide some research, and they can provide publication to contribute to science society. I remember that one guy had a sick his son, and doctors told that it is impossible to cure the disease of your children. So the father, although he didn't get any information about biology or medical science, he studied so hard for several years, and he just, find out some way to be recovered by some, the way based on what he just studied. Although he's not a doctor or she's not a professor, he's not a medical scientist. He just studied to um, cure the disease of his son. It's not reported, it's not cured, right? So we can, although we don't want to go to grade school, we can study, we can, have interested, we can do something good to, not only scientist society, but also all humankind to publish and to make a new idea, creative idea, then you can contribute to human society in many ways, like not only medical or science, but also, climate science, science change science, or physics, or arts, or literature, any area. Okay. So you don't need to limit those things in just, science of a specific area. You can extend those um, issues in your total life. You can extend to total life, I think. So after writing introduction, try to find out suitable method. For example, I used Landsat imagery to estimate premature forest area, right? And to use Landsat imagery, I need to use three different algorithm, right? And what is difference between them? How to code three different algorithm, and how to adapt those algorithms with data were provided. So just, in this case, after writing introduction, after reading good paper, very good paper, after having some reasonable creative thoughts based upon what you read, after writing introduction roughly, try to find out suitable method. And you need to study those methods, technology deeply. Sometimes it took 1 year to have the knowledge in dealing with related statistics, or Python, computer languages, or these days AI, right? Diverse methods. You need to study very deeply, since it's seriously. It needs time and effort. That kind of thing cannot be done very easily in few days. It needs time, right? So you must study so deeply for some hours. So in my remembrance, when I need to study statistics for summer vacation, at the time there was World Cup of South Africa. Maybe I'm not exactly sure that which year, but I really love the suckers, right? But I cannot see those soccer games. So just listening and studying so hard statistics, because I took 3 classes of a summer vacation, and my professor told that you are the only one who took 3 classes for summer vacation. So it was so hard for me to complete 3 classes for summer vacation quarter or semester. And at the time, we had a World Cup game, and really, I got a very lovely, like, kind of sound of, kind of trumpet there. I'm not sure if you can see those games at the time. And I just hearing I cannot see those games. I just study so hard. So you need the kind of time to be more friendly with um, some method or some technology of statistics, or computer language, or AI. And I hope that if you have interest in a specific area, you can have everything interest. You can have interest in those or area. But if you have deep interest in statistics, you can focus on that area. In my case, also like that. You know, as for me, studying computer language, or really like C++ language, etc., is not that easy for me. However, I really like to study statistics. So my professor allowed me to focus on that area. So um, if you can have knowledge various area, that is okay. However, if you have a more interesting specific area like statistics or computer language, you can also focus on. Okay, so if you finish in you know undergrad time, like one kind of level of or proper level of statistics or programs, that is really huge, right? It to have those kinds of skill, we spend 2 years in master degree, right? However, if you are interested in statistics or computer language, you can start from tomorrow or or next year, and you can take some time to see so many dramas of Netflix or Disney Plus, but instead try to spend more time in just having fun in statistics or computer language. Then after 1 year, if you can have very ex kind of uh, initial initially kind of become expert in some specific area like statistics or computer language, you actually have huge technology. Yeah, you already have, I guess, a master's degree could be like that way. So try to have very deep, try to have more interest in such technology and method, and um, you must use those to make a publication, to make a result. Okay, so you can get results after having um, adopting suitable method or technology. You can get result. Okay, it's not enough. Now you got a result of based upon um, analyzing using suitable method or technology. You need to discuss. You need to discuss what I have. What is it? What does it mean? You know, one thing I can compare between Korean papers and papers, very renowned papers, is that very renowned papers usually have a more deep um, discussion about that result. Although they have a same, I didn't bring Korean um, papers because some papers really great and they contributed to science society so well, I think. However, I mean just very worldly famous um, journals like Cell, Nature in biological area. They have a very deep discussion there, and um, great scientist can make a great discussion based upon what he got as a result, right? Because they can discuss in various way, and they can provide based upon what they got. They can provide some another advanced research issues and where they go in the future, right? So discussion. I hope that sometimes when you review a paper, you need to have a more you know interest, or you can enjoy the discussion part, how the authors just proceed the discussions of the papers. So um, try to get result and try to have very deep discussion with such result based on what you have read, what you know. So if you have make fruitful discussion, what do we need? We need huge or enough fruitful background of that area. Okay, so we need to read paper as much we can, and some of guys will study more seriously and sincerely reading textbook more deeply with thinking, spending more time. Others relatively could not. Then who can make provide better discussion after spending such time? So, um, getting higher score with good strategy must be considered. However, try to be more sincere to read your textbook and some papers. Then absolutely will make great fluid in your research uh, time. And then you can make a conclusion there. What I have done, what I really ultimately want to conclude. And it would be this connected to abstract, a paper. So after finishing this, your first writing, you can join where do apply. Then you can get some feedback of, peer scientists, right? And if it is written perfectly, it will be noticed that your papers was accepted. If it's something you need to write more, um, some scientists will tell that there is something you need to write more or you need to um, correct something. So after correcting those kind of materials or area, other professor, other scientists recommended, then you can apply again. Then it could be accepted. Then if your writing is published in a paper, it would be great honor, right? And it could be great happiness in your life. So I hope some of you, maybe all of you, can have some that kind of happiness or honor in your life. Although you did not go to grade school. If you go to any company, you can publish, right? If you just work as in another way, another life instead of going to grade school, you can publish. Okay, as some scientists can publish some poem, come up. Um, they can write some novel, right? And they can um, make some movie. Okay, as it is, you can publish a paper and hope that you can uh, dream that you can publish a paper in your life. Then it will be very helpful in social society of science and also humankind. Okay, I try to add how to write a paper with some um, guidance. It, it describe write a vision statement, what is key message of your paper, and be able to articulate it in one sentence. Um, vision statement should guide your next important decision. Where are you submitting, etc. And also, don't start at the beginning. In second step, vertically, it makes sense to start people with an abstract and introduction. So you can think about this type of error too. Um, don't you often end up telling a completely different story that the one you thought you are going to tell? You start with the introduction. By the time everything is written, you will likely have to rewrite both sections. So yeah, as I told you before, although I started in this way, as we proceed with um, the methodologies, have some research, have some discussion, our introduction could be modified. Okay, so um, we can think about those kind of, uh, as we proceed your research can modify initial one. So you need to read more paper, or you need to correct some introductions idea. So we always must be opened in our mind to correcting or modifying our researches as the research going on, as the discussions going on. Okay, and storyboard figure is one of the best first to start. And as you see, paper is one of the best most important one. As told here, is backbone of your paper. So sometimes, um, as you read abstract and introduction roughly, if we see some, figure of the paper, it we can understand what the authors of the paper want to say, want to conclude. Okay, it's the backbone of the paper. So always try to have more interesting figure. And when you try to write a paper, you need to spend some time to make um, figure more, efficiently for you to share the key images, key messages in the paper. And when you write a method section, there are something you need to consider here too. And it must be very written carefully, step by step, as much as you can in writing method, uh, to the extent that everyone can follow all the step can do exactly samely, right? It's like, kind of guidance of, making some robot or some machines, etc., right? So when you're writing a method, you need to write in detail as much as you can, okay? And then the others want to do it again in their research, they can follow in more easy way, and they can have some capacity spaces to do extra works or additional works, okay? And write discussion, result discussion section. In here, the authors hope that you can um, write wizard. When you write wizard, it must be done very also carefully and in exactly. And when you make a discussion, I hope that it must be um, it must have very deep insight over there. Then maybe it will make your paper more fruitful and applicable to our life. And conclusion is like, summarizing everything you have already written. So emphasize the most important finding from your study. State why they matter, or state what you learned, and with most important things you want to either to take away from the paper again. Okay, your present statement, etc. Okay, from the conclusion, the reader should be able to understand the gist of your whole study, including your result and their significance. So reference must be written based upon the guidance of the each paper and abstract. Um, Elevate the pitch for your article is so important. So you need to write core thing of the paper. Okay, and title comes last, or title comes last. Sometimes, title was started first, but it also could. The title comes last. It depends on the situation, but the author of this guidance of the paper, suggests in that way. It also, yeah, acceptable. So it is 10 simple steps to writing a scientific paper by um, maybe and Andrea. Um, it can be considered for you to review a paper and have interest in some specific area and write a paper, okay, or publish a paper. Okay, I hope you think about this matter. So now in maybe 10 or 15 minutes, uh, I hope to see together climate science debate, which is, Campus Liberty Tour 2022 at University of Dallas. Um, is climate science, as I told you, is very, crucial issue of this area. And also at the same time, there are so many debate about the climate change. Sometimes, some scientists used to tell that it's so severe for humankind. The crisis could be very severe for humankind. So all humankind or every people must do their best not to have climate crisis. Some, you know, many professors of, climate science are telling that, including our author of our textbook. And at the same time, as I told you, some other group used to tell that it seems to be a little bit exaggerated based upon what they have analyzed. And also those group are also not just one or two people or just, people who do, um, people, even they are very good expert in climate change science. They used to tell that it's there is a climate science change. However, it could not that severe in the future because there's something another matter could work to mitigate such climate change crisis. So um, that kind of debate must be done, right? As I told you, anybody cannot be perfect in scientific area. Although one student are kind of genius and he became more interested in biology. So he can go to great renowned university like Harvard, MIT to study biology. However, when he enter into master student, he need to choose some specific area, right? Rabbit. I want to study rabbit, then he become expert of a rabbit. And in doctoral degree, he more focused on like, some um, dynamics of, movement of rabbit or rabbit's brain or something like this. So as they study more deeply, their area become more narrow. So anybody cannot be perfect in scientific area. So we need to discuss together. We need to have debate sometimes, and based upon what they discuss, what they debate, what they have debate, we need to have better conclusion than before. I think like that way instead of some argument of specific professor must be kept in our mind. In this my that's what uh, my suggestion. So let's see it together like 10 or 15 minutes and um, let's have some our idea on this.
This special event at the University of Dallas. I'm Jonathan Sanford. I'm the president of the university. I know our students know that already, and we've got some alumni here, but some of you.
Greenhouse gas emissions.
Augustine has his concerns.
Start with this one.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, President Sanford. It's really great to be on the University of Dallas campus. I have not been here before. One of our board members, we do have something in common with you all. One of our board members for the Steamboat Institute is on the board of trustees for University of Dallas, Bridget Wagner, who's with the Heritage Foundation. So I know she is really proud of her alma mater.
You need to reshare your screen.
Oh, you cannot see now?
No.
Hold on, please. Sorry. Thank you so much, Esther.
That really
you can hear
me
now?
to be creative
Okay,
and innovative and magnanimous in
Be on the University of Dallas. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you, President Sanford. It's really great to be on the University of Dallas campus. I have not been here before. One of our board members, we do have something in common with you all. One of our board members for the Steamboat Institute is on the board of trustees for University of Dallas, Bridget Wagner, who's with the Heritage Foundation. So I know she is really proud of her alma mater, and she was very happy that we were going to come to your campus tonight. So wanted to let you know that tonight is actually the second stop in 3 stops we're doing on this debate tour this week. The resolution being debated in all 3 is the same, and it's one of the most hotly contested topics of our time. And that resolution, and you're going to be able to express your opinion on that, climate science compels us to make large and rapid reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. So we invite all of you to respond with your view, yes, no, or undecided, before the debate begins using the QR code that's provided, or actually I believe you should have received a text message, but you can use your phone to vote. And then before the debate starts, we're going to, screen is right here, we're going to show on the screen the results of the poll of your opinions, yes, no, or undecided. And then at the end,
Fact is, we're having a proper, full, honest, open debate, and boy...
You never have a nationwide recount, but you would under NPV.
The truth is in a national popular vote system, I am not afraid of my ideas.
In which we secure a bedrock of social rights, and we can tie this to work
here in Dallas, the Jack Roth Charitable Foundation, the Diana Davis Spencer Foundation, the Lynd and Harry Bradley Foundation, the Snyder Foundation, and the Robert and Judy Newman Family Foundation. And of course, if you enjoy tonight's debate, we would always welcome your financial support. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce our speakers and moderator for this evening. So we will have them come in and take the stage. And I will then read their brief bios, and then I'm going to let them take it away. Welcome, panel. Okay, so you've heard the resolution, and please vote if you haven't, as I mentioned, arguing the climate risks and climate policy. Dr. Wagner writes a monthly column for Project Syndicate. His most recent book is Geoengineering the Gamble, published in 2021. He is also the co-author of Climate Shock, published in 2015, which was recognized as a top 15 Financial Times and McKinsey Business Book of the Year for 2015. Prior to joining Columbia as a senior lecturer, Dr. Wagner taught at NYU, Harvard, and Columbia. He was the founding executive director of Harvard's Solo Geoengineering Research Program and was lead senior economist for the Environmental Defense Fund and a member of its Leadership Council. Dr. Wagner has been a term member of the Council on Foreign Relations and is on the board of carbonplan.org. Born and raised in Austria, Dr. Wagner moved to the U.S. to attend college. He holds a joint bachelor's magna cum laude with highest honors in environmental science, public policy and economics, and a master's and PhD in political economy and Reuters, The Independent.
Compels us to make large and
inaugural
to jump in here.
Everyone for
I'm sure you all want to jump in here. Obviously, climate change is an issue now that is incredibly topical and pertains both to environmental issues, but also economics, energy. Profound questions. You think about the war in Ukraine as an example. It has a connection point to climate change. But enough from me. I think let's get straight into it. So the debate resolution tonight is: climate science compels us to make large and rapid reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. And the possible answers for all of you are yes, no, or undecided. You'll be able to vote using the QR codes on your seat. You'll also be able to submit questions, which I hope you'll do. Because then at the end of the debate we can get to it. But with that said, I'd like to invite Dr. Coonan to make his opening statement.
Thank you, Tom. Well, the resolution sounds great.
But in the real world, we have to balance scientific certainties and uncertainties against growing demand for reliable and affordable energy. In that light, the proposition fails dramatically. Large and rapid reductions are unjustified, immoral, and fantastical. I'll begin with compels, which makes the proposition unjustified. The UN estimates that we'll see as much warming in the next 100 years as we've already seen since 1900, about 1.3 degrees Celsius. Despite that warming, we have seen the greatest improvement ever in the human condition. Longevity, literacy, economic activity have all increased dramatically, even as the population quintupled. And the rate of extreme poverty plummeted from 70% to 10%. Importantly, today's death rate from extreme weather is 1/50th of what it was in 1900. So it beggars belief that comparable warming over the next 100 years will significantly derail that progress. Many people allege that we've broken the climate, but it's hard to find long-term global trends in most extreme weather events, including storms, droughts, and floods. So global economic loss rates have actually declined slightly in the past 30 years, and they average a mere 0.2% of GDP. A wealthier world is a more resilient world. Well, maybe the future is going to be a lot worse. But the UN projects substantial economic growth even for an emissions-heavy scenario. In 2014, they said, for most economic sectors, the impact of climate change will be small relative to the impact of other drivers. Subsequent research confirms that warming is expected to be a minor drag on growth. A few degrees by the end of the century would make the growing economy a few percent smaller than it might have been. Of course, there are uncertainties in those projections. The GDP is not the only measure of well-being, and the rich will fare better than the poor. But the term existential crisis is not justified. One might still fret about severe but unlikely climate impacts. You hear something very bad might happen. We don't know exactly what, exactly when, or just how bad, but we'd better take drastic action. The well-to-do will clutch their pearls over that, but it's hardly compelling for most of the world. In fact, the word us in the proposition makes it immoral. The 1.5 billion of us in the developed world enjoy abundant and affordable energy, but the globe's other 6.5 billion are energy poor, and the inequalities are astounding. Americans consume about 30 times more energy per capita than Nigerians. And 3 billion people in the world use less electricity every year than does the average U.S. refrigerator. Global energy demand is going to increase 50% by mid-century as most of the world develops. Fossil fuels are the most reliable and convenient way for developing nations to get that energy, as they have long been for everyone. So when the proposition says science compels us, the developing world responds, what do you mean, us? The Indian Prime Minister protests closing the path for development, while the Nigerian president says Africa is being punished by the West and will fight to exploit the fossil resources that it has. It is, in fact, immoral for the developed world to deny developing nations the energy that they need. And it is the height of carbon colonialism to mandate costly and ineffective energy systems. Absolutes like science compels are also immoral. They induce eco-anxiety. 60% of young people globally are very worried about climate change, and many are reluctant to have children. But the world isn't facing a climate catastrophe, so it's pernicious to rob young people of their optimism by exaggerating the importance and urgency of reducing emissions.
Okay, we also can
here at the university, or we can go back to a philosopher in the 18th century, David Hume. We can't derive an ought from an is. There are ethical judgments involved. Of course there are. There are politics. There is politics. There's economics. Well, luckily, I'm an economist. So let me start with lesson number 1. Another philosopher, Sir Michael Jagger, 1969. You can't always get what you want. Yes, there are trade-offs. Of course there are. It's our bread and butter. And guess what? Climate economists for 3 decades have looked at these trade-offs and developed something called the social cost of carbon, which is basically the summary of how much each ton of CO2 emitted today causes and damages over its lifetime in the atmosphere, in today's dollars. Biden administration interim number, $50. Can get into the details later. That number must be, should be, will be, given that we are in fact reviewing this at the federal level, at least twice as high. Here's a Nature study that just came out last month. $185 per ton of CO2. And again, not to be pedantic about the statistics, but it doesn't matter as much what the mean, the median, the most likely tells us. It's the distribution. It's the uncertainty. It's the wholly on the right-hand side. Here's another version of this. Happens to be one of my own papers. Economics, costs of climatic tipping points. Massive changes to the climate system. All you need to do is squint at this thing. We'll see this over and over again. It's not the gray, it's not the most likely. That's bad enough. But look at the fat tail on the right-hand side. So,
okay, we can see that there are so many various issues to think about the climate change in terms of economics or relationship between various nations and also our life, which is related to natural resources. So in many issues, there are so many diverse discussion and debates in these issues, and I hope that all of you guys can have more interest in climate change science and which kind of diverse debate and different opinions going on. And as you hear those kind of discussion, I hope that you also can have your conclusion, your argument based upon what you have learned and what you have heard. Okay, now let's just finish our additional class at this time. And if you have any questions or any request, you can send to me email, or I hope and I wish that you can have very good score, very good writing in your first midterm exam. I hope that you can submit your first research paper, review paper on time very well. I hope all of you guys doing so well. Okay, thank you so much. See you next class. Bye bye. See you. Bye bye.
Thank you, Professor.
Bye bye.